Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome on a Saturday evening to all the people who are was. So let me go ahead and share the PPT once again. Let me take a look. Just 1 second, please. Is the PPT visible now? Great, great. So I'm sorry for that skip that happened. I'm not sure why it was showing all blank. And thanks for the reminders. That really helped. So I will just let the screen stand still at slide 3 and then 4 for just a couple of seconds so that people can take a look. Right, and just reiterate the initiatives that we have. So we have a WhatsApp HR group, we have Learning Weekend series, which is our webinar series. And as I said, this is the 25th Learning Weekend that we are hosting today. Our Chai Buddy series, which is our very own HR conclave series. Apart from that, we added Bangalore, Pune, and Hyderabad chapters. We came up with the Shining HR Award, which was basically conceptualized for young HR professionals, say somebody with let's up to 10 years of experience and who've made an outstanding contribution in their respective organization with probably an idea and the implementation and the usefulness of it. After the Shining HR Award, we tied up with HRCI, the global certification body, in July 2019. And immediately after the collaboration, we conducted the first of its kind scholarship test for any deserving professionals who would want to take the opportunity to utilize the scholarship. Our next in line series initiatives was Core Connect, which is basically a platform to brainstorm on the trending topics. So again, we would pick up an idea and invite people to share their thoughts, any revolutionizing ideas that people have contributed or professionals have contributed on the same topic. And the results are published on LinkedIn as well as in all our WhatsApp groups. With the name of the major contributors thrown in. After that, we came up with our Career Center, which is an AI-enabled platform, which is basically co-created with Tobu, which is our software development partner, for and only for the HR professionals. So the opportunities would be listed only for the HR function. This was kickstarted in February 2020. We've also come up with core research and candid conversation series, one after another. Core research is basically the core research team basically picks up research topics which have not been touched upon or barely touched upon in the past, and which is of much relevance to the HR fraternity as it is of relevance to the businesses. The Content Conversation series was conceptualized in mind, keeping in the business perspective. So this initiative was focused on roping in the CEOs or the business unit heads and taking an understanding from them, understanding the business from their perspective, so that HR and the HR fraternity can benefit from it on a regular basis. As of now, we've done one series for candid conversations, and as we talk right now, the numbers is increased to 185. So we quickly just go on to the next phase, which would be basically giving an insight on just touching base on the topic and then introducing our panel of speakers. So, the topic for today is the role of HR in business resumption post COVID 19. A lot has been said about why it happened, when it happened, whose fault is it, how is the business suffering, and also much has been talked about the complete cluelessness of the businesses, complete cluelessness of how the businesses are likely to look in the future. But enough said and done. We have been we have been able to tie up with our panel of experts from different industries, from different handling different geographies. So we have with us our HR experts, and their experience is exhaustive, and so is their expertise. Just to give you a very brief insight into what we are going to discuss is, as we all understand that COVID-19 has become a global humanitarian challenge. The virus has spread worldwide despite the humongous containment efforts by multiple countries. So right now, it is a serious threat to people, businesses, economies across the world. During such times of crisis, business operations, which is the intelligence of an organization, it is all the more important than ever. Talking about business continuity and disaster recovery plans, those are being tested by rapidly evolving challenges. When you talk about challenges, those are not just limited to travel restrictions and large-scale remote working. And I'm sure our panelists will be able to talk about the challenges in detail. But just to throw in a few figures, Gartner's recent business continuity survey shows that only 12% of the organizations are highly prepared for the impact of coronavirus, and only 32% of senior executives rarely update their operating model. Um, According to this, and this is according to the initial data from an ongoing intelligent operations survey by Accenture and Oxford Economics. So right now, organizations are pretty unsure of the depth of this disruption. How long will the disruption last, and how will the recovery shape up? This kind of sea change for this longer time will mean that the world post COVID-19 would be very, very different than the world before it. So the organizations must respond rapidly and robustly to maintain business continuity. NHR will have to be at the forefront in strategizing, planning, and executing this challenge. So please join me in welcoming the panelists for today, who will be able to put a rest to all the questions, the anxiety, the nervousness that is there in our minds, and during these turbulent times. And I would like to introduce the panelists. Our panelists are starting from Manvi Sushil. I'll go in alphabetical order. So Manvi Sushil is the Director for Human Resources with Averi Dennison, which is, and she is handling the label and graphic materials for South Asia. She's worked with ESSA Abloy, which is a Swedish organization. She's worked with Bharti Infratel and Schneider Electric. Going on to the next panelist, we have with us Nupur Bhagat, who is the Chief of Staff, and she is taking care of the private equity or the principal investors practice for Asia Pacific region. She is with McKinsey and Company, so she would be able to bring in the perspective of the business consulting. The other organization that she has worked with is the Smart Cube. Coming to the next panelist, we have Rajeev Motwani, who is the Senior Vice President and Global Head HR for Infogain. Again, he is an expert from the IT industry. He's worked with Dissolve Systems and Global Logic, HCL, and Interglobe Technologies. Thereafter, we have Sheetal Sandhu, who's the Group CHRO from ICRA. ICRA is a financial services organization. They are a rating agency which are rating different organizations and businesses, and hence she'll be able to give us an insight into the financial aspect of the current scenario. She's worked with eValueServe, she's worked with Altran, Cadence Design Systems, and American Express. Our next panelist is Swarna Sudha Selvaraj. She's currently the head for talent development, handling Europe, UK, and Ireland regions. She is currently with Tata Consultancy Services, and prior to this, she's worked with Murugappa Group. And the next person, the last of all, is me. I'm actually the co-founder and chief evangelist for Score Advantage Solutions, something that started this last year. Overall, I've worked majorly with IT and ITES organizations, Bhavna Corporation, Dimension India Networks, One BCG, the Smart Cube, and Hydrogen Struggles. So I am just adding in the panelists onto the video, and please join me in welcoming Rajeev, Manvi, Swarna, and Nupur and Sheetal. Very warm welcome to all of you. We're really glad and honored that you've agreed to spare your valuable time. I've been interacting and I know how super busy your schedules have been. And you all have been kind enough to spare still spare some extra minutes, at times hours, from your busier schedules, getting connected with us at odd hours and giving it to our requests. And thank you for being here. So um, just give me a moment, and we should be able to kickstart the event finally. So I have been taking a look at the kind of questions that have been coming up, and overall, if we were to categorize those questions into two major categories. Then there is the current situation, and then we have the post-COVID scenario. So let me just take a break, and I think the audience or the attendees would be able to would be very happy to hear a hi from all of you.
Hi, everyone.
Hey
Hello,
everyone.
everyone. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
So our
everyone.
panelists have been very, very patient listening to all the introduction and the parts that I was talking about. So without wasting much time, let's straight away jump on to the first scenario, which is the current scenario. So my first question would be for Swarna, and then probably we can go on to Sheetal. Swarna, everyone has been talking about VUCA world for past few years, but it's only now that we're really experiencing VUCA world. How can you describe the current situation at workplace, and what are the challenges that the organizations are facing with respect to people and businesses? What would be your point of view and your experience?
Sure. Thank you, Kashish, first of all, for this opportunity and for this platform to interact with hundreds of professionals who are in HR. It's wonderful to be here and also to get introduced to the lovely panelists who have joined me here. I'd like to post a disclaimer, first of all. Whatever comments that I share here for the questions posed is only my personal view as a practitioner, and it's not a representation of my organization. I'd like to be very clear about that. Um, there are two functions which have become very, very busy, extremely busy compared to the earlier times. One is IT, and then it's HR. I'm sure all the HR professionals here would agree to it. And kudos to all the HR professionals who have scaled up to manage this crisis for the organization and for its people. Corona is universal, it's global. So, I've posted a blog on LinkedIn. Actually, Corona brought me back to social media. I should say that. I was away from it for a long time. And during this period, I've become much more active. So, in social media. And I've said that Corona is very universal. And I've asked this question to people whether they see it as an opportunity or a challenge. And most of the professionals who are there have said that it's an opportunity. While the question that Kashish posed is on a challenge, I think most of them feel it's a great opportunity. The reason is very simple. Corona in Hindi means do it. And the digital disruption or the digital adoption that Corona has brought it, actually, Corona has done it. It has brought in the digital wave so well. Organizations which had not adopted digital have also adopted it so well and so fast. So it's unique. And Corona has been very inclusive. It did not see any differences. It treated everybody equal. So it taught a lot of HR professionals and human beings inclusion. So personally, as a humanitarian and an environmentalist, I think Corona has been a great opportunity for us to pick up, learn, and cope up with a lot of things that we might face in the future as well. As far as the challenges that the organizations have been facing and what HR has been doing, I think if we divide it into two parts, the business has to run. So the business continuity planning is one part of it. And the other side, managing the challenges that have been coming up with in terms of being in touch with employees. I think that's the most important. So there are different sectors, industries, where there are sectors where businesses had to completely shut down. On the other hand, there are businesses where they are still, they're actually their business increased. So HR people from different sectors had different experiences, and they had to cope up with that to see how the business continued planning can be done along with business. And then on the other side, managing the vulnerable, even people who were quarantined or were infected, were distanced. How do we actually keep people together? That became a huge challenge for HR people. And I think if I have to sum up how HR people have scaled up to this, I would say the entire human resources functions have actually realigned. There is no functional differences of acquisition, development, management. All of them actually realigned as one HR, which came out very clearly across functions, across industries. They became very collaborative with business, with people, even in terms of work-life integration with families. And they scaled up at a pace but that we could not imagine, very instantaneously without taking any time, and staying in touch through creative communication, bringing in technology at its best ways possible. So the challenges were there, but I think the HR team scaled up really well to manage this. This is my view, Kashish. You have to unmute yourself, Kashish.
Yeah.
Thanks, Swarna. So thank you for your views. I request Sheetal to give us her insights as to what are the current challenges that she has seen the HR professionals and the businesses facing in the current scenario.
Yeah, thank you, Kashish. And firstly, very good evening to all of you. And Kashish, wonderful initiative on learning weekends by Core IR Group. So congratulations for that. And I'm esteemed to be part of this platform with my co-panelists. So clearly, I think I'll just, chime into what Swarna has just said. I think the challenge for any organizations is from becoming a real organization to a remote organization. We all are struggling with questions on, remote working, remote leadership, empowered teams, remote employees for that matter. Where are the employees, for example? And last but not the least, what is the future of the organization? How will a future organization look like for us? Which clearly demarcates that in my mind, there are four challenges for any organization, whether it is essential services or non-essential services. First and foremost being, where are our people, right? Where, as an HR or as an CEO of the company, what I will ask will be that what is the health of my employees? Where are they? How are they? And hence, incident reporting, diagnosis, and response to that. And HR now is actually crisis response team rather than human resources team. And that's probably one of the greatest challenge which any organization is facing at this stage. Followed by that is this managing remote working. I don't know how many of us would have ever done virtual calls. At least I am doing this virtual conference with about thousands of you as an external audience for the first time. And I think it's a great opportunity. But there are many more of us who could be camera shy. I have leaders I've heard of who are camera shy. They don't want to come on these remote working setups and all that. So what do you do with them? Do you train them? There are a different set of challenges which is bringing in. And I think we have, over last 3-4 weeks or months, we have made a progress. But I think if this is going to stay, I think this is going to be the new norm or the next normal. And hence, we all need to be prepared for that. Another important challenge is for any organization, again, it is industry agnostic, is to do with jobs and continuity. How do we ensure that there are enough jobs? If not enough jobs, the relevant jobs are available, and then making sure that the business continuity is there. I come from a financial services industry where probably banks have never thought of doing work from homes, and they are still not okay doing it because of the regulatory issues and circumstances and all of that. There is a greater challenge which lies ahead of that. And if tomorrow we agree that 25%, only 25% of our people need to be only in offices, then how do we operate a bank, or how do we operate a retail shop, or any other essential services? So this will lead to a different set of challenges in my mind, and I think the bigger challenge is the continuity on the business itself. Last but not the least, I think the emotional well-being, or the health of mental health of our employees. It's a change for an employee, right? Having to do work from home, sitting in office, is not sitting in office setups, but sitting in home setups, catering to family setups, cooking at the same time, doing household chores. So bringing this all together as an integrated platform, I think it creates a different challenge in itself. And that's the challenge, that despite all this mental, physical health, well-being, business continuity, how do you still bring in employee safety, secured environment to our employees? I think the next biggest challenge post-COVID will be, how do we get this set of employees back to work? And as someone has rightly said, that the crisis may not last forever. It cannot be a black swan event for us. But what it will do is, it will permanently reset the world, into a different mode, which will be more work from home, less meetings, less travel, and of course the greener world ahead. So I think those are my views on bringing out challenges. But very happy to hear anything from other panelists. Otherwise, back to you, Kashish.
I think Kashish had a technical issue, so she's right now not here. Just to continue with the conversation, probably we'll kind of look at the second part of the discussion.
Right.
The first part, we looked at, okay, what happened in the current situation, what were the challenges, and how did HR scale up to it? We'll move on to the next section, where we are talking about post-resumption. How is it going to be? And what will be the role of HR in business resumption post-lockdown? Probably, I'll take up Kashish's role a little bit now because she's not here, and request Nupur to share her views. You're from a consulting firm. You have a multi-sectoral view. So if you could share your views on it, that would be great, Nupur.
Happy to. Thanks so much, Swarna. Hi, everyone. It's firstly great to see everyone here. And thank you so much for the co-panelists. I think it's a great platform, and we all can do our bit to help everyone around, right? So I think this is a small bit from us for every one of you here. So I think we all have established by now that people are, one, at risk, but are also the most critical element of recovery as we think about business continuity. And us as HR professionals, as people leaders, it's upon us on how we can help our companies, our economies come back to the normal self, which means we have to define what the future of the work would look like. What are the new work health safety norms? What will be the operation protocol for each and every of us and our organizations that we represent? It's a global situation. We all are learning from companies outside the world, other countries. To give you a few examples on how different companies and economies are thinking about business continuity and recovery.
It was taking time.
Okay, so we have Kashish back. Let me continue with that. So travel and hospitality, we all know, is one of the biggest hit sectors. But we have leaders like Emirates who are all set to really do a regular testing for every crew member, every passenger who travels with their flight. I think it's a great step. It's not only trying to control safety for every one of us, but is also trying to get the confidence back in the travel. China, who has been through this way more longer than we all have, right? I think since Jan, and when they went for Chinese New Year, they never came back from the lockdown. But now they're finally back in action. If you look at the Chinese government, they have actually put up an app which gives you a QR code on your mobile app that says, are you healthy enough to go out? Or are you supposed to be indoors? Which is a great data point that all companies are taking into consideration when they think about their workforce planning. most of the manufacturing sectors, and obviously one of the hard hit sectors as well, because you need labor on the ground, they are coming up with work schedules and shifts. So one group of people will be isolated from the other group of people with no physical contact to help them give continuity and stability over the long time. Insurance. We all know in India, insurance is one of the high touch points. Till you have a physical underwriting, it does not move. They are also moving towards digitalization. So yes, it has given us a lot of learnings and opportunity to grow. We all will have our own learnings. We will all have our journey. We don't really know what we are in for, but together we can fight it out is for sure. We were talking about, and Sheetal mentioned this about employee health and wellness. There are a lot of companies who are actually focusing on that. They have Fridays, mindful evenings. They have yoga sessions being organized centrally. I think it's a great way to connect and also give and invest in your own employees. So when we look at the challenges in front of us, there'll always be a solution to look for. But we always have to ask what and how that new normal will look like, right? And as we see, a lot of leaders are actually taking this up in a way more proactive manner. They are stepping ahead, planning for the futures. And because we don't really know what the future looks like, they have to do that over the period of time, as short as 2 days and as long as 2 years. And what we are seeing and what we suggest is a five pivot framework to think about your business continuity. And a lot of organizations are looking at it with this lens. The first one is, where are you currently standing? What's your current status quo? What might be good for you might not be relevant for the other organization. So really understanding where you stand, where your people stand, is the first step. The second one is, what is your aspiration? And you have to do that over the period of the 10 years. So what's your aspiration for 2 days? What's the scenario looking like in 6 months, right? And then think about, what is your broad posture? What is your broad overarching theme that you will tackle through? No matter till when the lockdown will continue, no matter if we will have a vaccine, you should have a posture and a direction that's agnostic to any such external factors. And then determine what are the action steps and how this evolves over the continuous period of time. And the last one, which I would probably put for everyone's food of thought here, would be triggers. We know every now and then, every week, there is an update. Is the lockdown extended? Are we still going in for a lockdown for another week? So you should always have those triggers, be it external or be it internal, that you can keep a watch on to see how your actions and scenarios would change. So this is a framework that we've been using and also seeing a lot of other leaders globally using to define what the next normal looks like for them and their company. Let me take a pause. And Kashish, if you're back, I'll hand it over back to you. Otherwise, maybe I would love to have other panelists share their views on what they're seeing in the industry.
Sure. Thanks, Nupur. Thanks for sharing your point of view. So I think Nupur gave us a very good insight into multi-sectoral overview from the business consulting perspective. I would like to probably encourage Swarna to share her perspective from the IT consulting point of view as to how does the future look like in terms of role of HR in business resumption.
Definitely, Kashish. Those were great views shared, Sheetal and Nupur, as part of your content. When I look at IT consulting, I think we'll have to look at where we are right now. So IT consulting touches every sector in the world. So right from the most hit sector, travel, tourism, hospitality, to the thriving ones of healthcare. It touches every sector. And for us, it's actually our employees who are working here. and employees may be working in different sectors. So we'll have to collectively look at how is it that we are going to take care of our employees, enable their staying relevant, enable their well-being as and when we travel this journey. I would agree to what Nupur said in terms of we need to know the starting point. So definitely customers and employees being two sides of the coin, we'll have to look at where our customers are and accordingly plan for initiatives to look at how it can match in terms of business continuity and also looking at people. In my earlier pitch, I spoke about the positive, ways of looking at what all happened well and all that. But definitely from an employee perspective, there are going to be challenges. Right now, if we look at, there are questions being raised as to, okay, if there are 10 people in a team, maybe 4 are right now connected, started working, the other 4 are struggling, the other 2 are not even in connect. So how are we going to manage their performance management and things like that? These are practical challenges that are coming up. So in the post-reception, definitely from a HR perspective, we have to look at the long term and the short term, both. So if we put it in the time management matrix of Stephen Covey, it's the urgent and important, which is short term we'll have to look at, and important but not urgent, but definitely for a long term planning, we'll have to look at what has to be done. So if I have to give in terms of bullets as to what we could look at, one is definitely we are going back to the basics. Looking at the Maslow's theory, it's very clear that we are touching more and more on the physiological safety, love and belonging, the levels which are bottom most, the first 3. That's becoming more and more important, whether it's the hygiene factor, which is required, the work environment, which is assuring to be clean, safe. It's very, very important that we look at. In LinkedIn, a couple of days ago, I just posted a blog. I posted asking people, what is the percentage of people do you think will come back to work on day 1? And, most of the people who responded did not pick up the highest percentage. And the reasons they gave were the basics. So HR going back to the basics in the immediate future is very, very, will be looked at as the core most important thing. And then comes the safety, security, which means, okay, how will we plan the hikes? Will the employees feel secured about it? What about their travel plans, especially in IT sector? If you look at, we have a lot of employees traveling across for consulting assignments. How comfortable would they be doing that? And what are the policies, procedures around it which will turn around? What about the health schemes? How are we going to manage those aspects? And definitely the love and belonging. When I say that, the sense of connection, how we are going to build. In a practical term, if we have to bring it down, in the IT sector, definitely when in a long term, there may be a decision taken that more and more people would be working from home. When I heard the terminology ethical hacking for the first time, I was wondering, hacking is a negative terminology. How can it become ethical? But it makes a lot of sense when it comes to how it helps actually a lot of global businesses, and overall, it makes a lot of sense. Now, a new terminology might emerge. This is in discussion with my mentor, who is the CEO of an organization. We were talking about something called ethical stalking. Okay, the systems that we are operating on definitely will have softwares that will track our activities. And is it really for tracking whether you're working or not? I don't think so. It's more about how to build productivity and how to give the confidence to clients saying, okay, this is how we are operating. So this might be on the rise, and there may be issues that employees may raise saying, okay, this is not something we'd expect. We feel like we are being, monitored too closely and things like that. But I think building the trust will make a lot of sense. We'll have to relate to ethical hacking, which we thought was, hacking was bad. Similarly, this is coming very closely, the ethical stalking. This is just purely our view in terms of, how it can flare up. But HR definitely has a role to play in that. Next, definitely staying in touch and building the emotional connections. How are we going to do it? There's a culture of throwback which can pick up, right? There have been beautiful moments, memories that we have lived in the same organization before COVID. How can we bring those memories back into employees? Those are very small things that we do. But definitely as HR people, when we touch people like that, it's going to make a huge difference. Building that trust, building that security, safety feeling as an employee of the organization, feeling that oneness and coming back together to see how it can work. So being available would be something very, very important. The throwback culture, again and again, doing that in frequent meetings, in get-togethers, getting people back. Ethical stalking, something which is coming up very strongly. And last but not the least, I would have preferred to speak it first, as a learning practitioner, learning, it's going to be something very, very important, because we are going into redundancy, because different sectors are behaving differently right now in terms of their business itself. So how are we going to ensure that people are not going to be redundant? What is the learning mechanism that we're going to build within the organization that is actually going to build the confidence amongst business and people together to see that, look, there are so many options available for me to pick up, and I need to pick up the right one so that I don't become redundant. So providing those right opportunities would be something which would be very, very important. Thank you. Kashish, over to you. Kashish, we're not able to hear you.
Very informative. Are you able now?
Yes,
Am I
I can
audible
hear you.
now?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Great. So thanks. That was very insightful and very elaborate view on what to expect in the coming months. I would request Raj to probably give insights from his perspective about IT sector, or maybe a generic point of view, and probably talk if he has any inputs on how we tackle, because we spoke about ethical stalking. So this is likely to create some trust issues in the employees. So that you give us.
Okay. Thanks, Kashish. Am I audible to all of you, my co-panelists? Okay, thank you. I have a electricity fluctuation which
Yes,
is
you are
happening
now.
here. So, so bear with me in case there's a connectivity issue. I think, let me actually take a step back, Kashish, before coming on to this part which you asked. One is that what are the learnings are we getting from this entire new normal? One of the most important learning is remote working is possible. It doesn't matter whether you are in the same city, same state, same country, or different countries across the globe. Shift working is also possible because of that. The third important learning we have got is the change is accelerating, and we have the ability and adaptability to the change. See, all of us were able to actually go remote in a very quickest time frame, and that actually shows the overall preparedness and the efforts by people and the organizations to actually make it work. Even in IT industry, everybody is talking about going remote by 90% or more. In our own company, we did not have a even single billing loss, and we were able to manage it 100% billing going remote. The fourth important learning is, from the day to day, every day is different. It's evolving. The challenges are different. It's conventional. There's no conventional way through which you can actually solve the problems. Every day is different. You have people working remotely. You have a business scenarios which are evolving. There is survival issue from a human life's perspective. There's a survival issue from a business perspective, and you need to manage all of it. And most importantly is, it's not just about human, we as an employees, and it's not, let me put it differently, it's not about work and home existing or coexisting. It's also about nature and us coexisting. That's a learning we have got, and that's a big learning I believe all of us have actually got. And most importantly is that everybody is same. Now, with this context, if I were to bring a little bit of context from organization readiness perspective post this scenario, now, that scenario has to be looked at in two broader dimensions. One dimension is the lockdown, post-lockdown dimension, and the other is when we are out of this COVID-19 situation, which nobody knows right now that by when we'll be out of it. Now, all of us were sent into lockdown scenario all of a sudden. Now, companies struggled. Some industry has bigger impact to it. Others did not have that much of impact, and for few, it's a flourishing opportunity. The business is growing, and they're very happy about the situation, and but that's how from a business context perspective is. Now, if we were to look at it from HR perspective, how HR would respond post lockdown situation, then we can actually break it in three broader categories. The first category would be the business continuity. Today, the important thing is when people start coming back to office, We cannot actually let 100% people, even the government of India has said 50% people can work. But I think in industry which I belong to or come from, we cannot even afford to have 50% people coming in one go. So it has to be looked at from a phased manner. And also creatively, HR will have to see that how can we make it work in a shifts. So now there would be broader challenges, and I'll come to that from HR readiness perspective on that. But from a continuity point of view, these two things are important. The third thing on continuity is, do we have a succession planning for our leaders and the key functional experts? So for example, if somebody unfortunately gets diagnosed positive, then who's going to be running the show in the person's absence? That's going to be a very important element from a business continuity perspective for which HR needs to own today. So having the right people identified and giving those opportunities to them to lead the show is very, very important. And also preparing ourselves for the worst. What if the lockdown happens again? What is our preparedness from that perspective? What if we are not able to bring the vaccine into reality? Then how would we respond to it? We need to have that foresightedness. Now, second element or dimension would be the safety of our people. We need to make sure that we have the basic hygienes in place, the social distancing, which is a big learning we have got as part of this entire issue. We need to continue to replicate that in our organization. Swarna talked about the basic basic Maslow's physiological and the basic needs and safety needs perspective. And I think that's very essential. And if I actually go beyond the safety and health, then third important thing is, and that's what your original question was, from emotional elements of well-being of our employees. I think employee sensitivity is very, very important. Right now, what's going on in the minds of people at a psychological level is my job going to be secure? Number one. Number two, will I be immune to this COVID-19 or will I not be? That's the second, because survival is again coming in the picture. Third is, how will I actually manage my social fabric better? Fourth is, I finding a lot of stress around me. How do I find a solution to deal with this stress? The fifth could be possibly related to how to collaborate with colleagues in this remote environment. And I think HR can play a very, very important role in all of it. Now, the first part, which is the job security. From a job security perspective, I understand that there are companies from specific industries perspective who are going to be bleeding a lot right now. However, this is going to be a short-lived situation. Most of the pandemics have actually seen a V kind of slowdown, V-shaped slowdown. What does it mean is till the time there's a problem, there's a dip, but then the recovery is faster. It's not like a U-shaped recovery. So company spine is very, very important right now. I know companies are struggling and they're preserving and ensuring their cash reserves are in place so that they can deal with the scenario. They are able to pay the salaries to the people, and that's why they have a big struggle. They need to manage their collections. They need to make sure that their liabilities from a payout account payables perspectives are also managed well. Those are the business scenarios where companies are battling. But what is more important, where HR needs to play important role, is to remind the business that this is a time when we need to stand tall with a lot of conviction and a lot of positivity and hopes to our people. This is not the time when we need to get into layoffs. I think that will actually, it will be an erosion to the overall brand value for the company. Reason being, as I indicated, all the pandemics in the past have gone through the V shape, which means the recovery will be sooner. People will remember how did we treat them. So that's important from a job security perspective. There are various ways through which you can deal with the cost management. You can actually freeze the hiring, you can freeze the travel, you can cut the bulge, you can actually even put restrictions on some of the things from a benefits perspective. You can have variable bonus payout stopped. You can actually have a senior leadership taking pay cuts. You can even have a pay cut if you have a sustainability issue to employees. The layoff should be the last resort. I think that's important from a job security perspective, and that's where HR needs to keep counseling and giving the guidance to the leadership team on various aspects of managing this. The second thing is from an emotional stability perspective, and which is covering the health, which is covering the issues, which could be people, family. How do we actually help employees in that? We need to ensure that we will have a scenario for certain months where we'll have some population working from office and some working from home. How do we actually make sure that we are available to them even for next many months? We will not have physical interactions. Everything will still be virtual. Even if you are sitting in the office, we'll have a meetings happening from one room to another, or one workstation to another workstation, because social distancing would be very important to be maintained. From that perspective, our availability, are we communicating that to people that we are available, reach out to us on, through these different modes, leveraging the intranet or social collaborative platform for better engagement, which is mostly for informal connect. Let people actually bring their family stories to the rest of the colleagues to really watch or see. How are they even managing their work life balance being at home? And how are they actually ensuring that this coexistence of family with the work is working really fine? Let those stories to go, because that will inspire people, that will motivate people to actually continue to deal with this scenario. The third possible aspect here is, can we still have a provision for arranging the counseling, independent, confidential counseling opportunities to our employees? Because some people may require it. People will be very stressful if somebody is on a build assignment today, and that's mostly relevant from technology kind of industry, and tomorrow if the person comes to the pool or bench, the person may have a lot of apprehensions in the mind. Can we actually address those apprehensions beforehand so that it doesn't actually impact them emotionally or psychologically? So these are some of the things which we could do. We need to make sure that our leaders are actually doing the right communication. We need to tell people upfront what the situation is. Being honest and candid actually does not create any problem in these kind of scenarios. People would appreciate that you were honest to them, involve them in the decision making, take their perspectives, which could help and benefit the organization in long run perspective. All I believe is it's a short term issue. We will pass over it, and we will have a better times to come, and that would be sooner than what we would expect it to come on our way. So with this, I'll stop it here, Kashish, and pass it back to you.
Perspective that you shared. I think it was very well connected in terms of, we can see the comments. So that's something that's really we got very in some you and poor um, Sheetala. I think the person uh, we need to now get is way, because he also kind of brings to the table the real time challenges that she has seen in her organization. As I said earlier, she is with the Events and Graphics and Material Packaging Division. So they services sector. So maybe could give an insight into challenges she has seen as being done, that be the real challenge. And yeah, over to you, Manvi, please.
Okay, thanks, Kashish, and thanks everyone for setting the great context for me to come directly to how the manufacturing part of the world, which has got two cohorts essentially, one being the work from home group, which is very similar to what we've just discussed, remotely working, trying to get their services and they connect with the customers, also their functional KPIs delivered from their home in this situation. But we also have the other cohort of employees, which is actually still being a part of the essential services supply chain, going to their plants and the manufacturing locations. So thanks to the context being set by my lovely panelists, I can come directly into how the other part of the world, where employees continue to go, to their manufacturing locations and would soon after the lockdown as well, would look at it. Of course, HR, as the topic being the role of HR continues to be and has been through this unprecedented pandemic situation, right at the front lines of the thinking and the delivery of the emergency response. So I would like to divide my answer into two parts. One being the emergency response as it stands today for a few of the employees who continue to go to the operations. How do we keep them safe? How do we keep their morale high and their confidence and trust on us that we would keep them safe as they continue to work on the production of materials which get into supply chain of COVID fighting. They are our heroes, and our huge gratitude to them. In the second part of this of what I would speak about is going to be going forward. How do we see that all assimilating in the medium to long term, and the role of HR as we move ahead? So let's speak about emergency response. So did the lockdown mean much change in terms of people going to their factory locations in the short term? The answer is no. Of course, the way we enabled it as HR and organizations changed, and we did our best that with minimum disruption, the organizations who were exempted in the framework of how the country stands today went back to the locations. A couple of things that we did. We ensured that the shop floor was designed in a way that there was social distancing, and we would continue to do so. The daily health check-ins and the temperature check-ins to ensure that our employees are well and safe on a daily basis is something that we implemented even before the lockdown started. The fourth thing that organizations like us continue to do is innovate on how we are getting our people to the manufacturing locations from their homes. So while of course it's a different regulatory aspect to getting the vehicle passes and the movement passes, while we resolve that, we also continue to ensure that there were alternate seating in the buses, etc. And I really liked what Sarna said, HR going back to basics in the Maslow's hierarchy and using more common sense and empathy to deal with situations became really important. PPE and sanitizers became the most go-to materials. So material planning became really important. We had teams working on a day-to-day level across our facilities, and this is across the essential services supply chain, I hear, on making sure that people are well stocked with masks and sanitizers and gloves and all the protective equipment that they need. We ensured that we keep a hawk eye on our stocking levels, considering the some of the shortages that the company saw. It continues to get better today. So I can confidently say that while we didn't have too much time to respond to the situation, our role of HR was one of speed and agility to ensure that. And I know I can speak for all my colleagues across manufacturing organizations in HR that I empathize, and I know that what it takes to get the ground up and running in partnership with the business. Communication through this all is, it's something that is cut across and will continue to, because I agree with Rajeev, transparency in our communication. I would like to add the word empathy, and three, I would like to say structure. I think HR has always been at the forefront of communication across organizations, but we realized that with part of HR working from home and part of HR at a plant locations, we needed to get a bit more structure to the way we communicate. So the structured one-on-ones, making sure skip levels become important part of the DNA of any organization becomes really important in this context. I would like to highlight my corporate communication team, which we partnered with to a great extent, and I'm sure that most of you HR people are also leveraging your corporate communication team. They have some brilliant ideas on how to they build brands. So to build your brand during a crisis is something the theories that they apply are very innovative. Of course, the another team that HR needs to collaborate, and we have quite successfully during this period, is the legal and IT teams. I think within the legal framework of how HR can respond and cannot respond in today's scenario, it's so important to be aware of all the notifications which keep changing by the hour. And I'm sure all our HR folks out there listening and are doing that as well. Now, going towards the future a little bit, some questions that we continue to ask ourselves while we work and really quantifying the business impact in the medium to long term of this situation. Some questions that we ask ourselves is, how would the shop floor change in 6 months time to a year? Will we get in more artificial intelligence or RPA to manage some of our work? Should the number of lines remain the same? Should the staffing levels in one shift remain the same? The transition from a safety zero incident, which has been a guideline at the shop floor, to infection zero incident. If I have to put, a target to it, does that become the new norm for us? And from a visitor management perspective, do our guidelines get tightened? Do we get in more automation there? How do our SOPs change with this context? Do we need to get more equipment on the shop floor, like thermal scanning? Is that the new norm? And of course, doing all of this to ensure the operating cost remains in a way that the business can manage with the current and the future projections. So, of course, these are the questions we continue to ask ourselves. And of course, some of the more questions that I'm sure everyone is asking is, how do we see the leadership competencies changing to manage a crisis and beyond? I think the way we identify our high potentials towards succession, is that going to change? Do we need more agility related competencies? Do we need more empathy related competencies? Those are the questions I'm sure we all ask ourselves. How will our benefits framework change? Do we need more flexibility in our leave structures? Do we need more, so something that we did quite successfully, and I'm sure a lot of companies do that, is have a free tele consultation service or a virtual consultation service with the doctor. So if anyone feels a bit anxious about their health, they can reach out to a doctor on an app. We've tied up with a well-known app. Something that we've done is we have an artificial intelligence bot, and people continue to talk. We're using it quite successfully for our crisis management, and we continue to evolve in that space. Some other questions that we're asking is, will our roles get defined differently going forward? And as our cost structures change, something that we also ask ourselves is, today the sales and commercial organizations are looking at, they've been used to doing their sales and collections in a relationship format where they meet customers, go to wholesale markets, essentially to interact with customers. Will that change going forward? Do they need a customer centricity 2.0 kind of a framework? And of course, HR competencies, we don't have enough time to breathe and assess our own competencies, I think. But the fact that we are all on this call learning and collaborating tells us a lot about us, right? Thank you, and over to Kashish.
All right, I think Kashish is having a technical difficulty. I'm not able to see her. So probably let's look at questions and pick up some from there. There is a question coming up on some communication platforms, or how do we enable communication to be active and stay relevant? Probably a couple of us can answer that. From my view, I think the core competencies that all of us have been touching on is empathy that we need to build on. Another one important thing is understanding of the technical capabilities of platforms that are available for communication. So there are several platforms that are available for social collaboration, for work collaboration. Microsoft Teams is one that we use in our organization. Probably I'll request other panelists to add to it.
I can go next. I think it's a very valid point, everyone. Communication is one of the very critical factors right now. It will help you ensure your culture is maintained. So do a lot of internal communication. It's not just about what you communicate, but it's about how you communicate, and is that really what the employees want to hear? Be mindful that people outside, employees or customers, are all overloaded. So how you communicate is very, very critical. Also, when we work remotely, there are a lot of distractions, right? How many of us really look at our phones when we're actually on a call or on a mute, right? We all know the reality. So how you can communicate so effectively that these distractions are limited? With every minute a new news article popping up, if you can do that more systematically as a firm, that will also improve productivity. Technology and communication, I think with God's grace, the good news is, yes, we are going through a real crisis, but communications are working. Webinars, Cisco webinars, Zoom, Slack, Facebook workspaces. There are so many of them that you can use effectively, not only for communication internally, but doing business. A bank in China actually has mandated all its relationship managers to use WeChat for business building. So you don't really have to go and meet your client or a customer in person. You can do that virtually. So communication does play a very important fact, plus will help us ensure that we're managing calmness and sanity and ensure productivity is not getting compromised because of distraction.
So Kashish, there are a lot of questions people have posted. Would you like us to start taking them? You're on mute, Kashish.
So between the switches, the power outage, I forget that I tend to go on mute. So this one is specifically for Nupur. Vinod Bidwaik has specifically posed this question for you. And he's asking, can you name few changes in HR operating models in, putting the customer in the center? So customer-centric HR operating models. What do you see as the new changes post-COVID?
Sure. Sure. Happy to answer that, Vinod. So when we look at employee and safety standards internally, they also, in a way, will impact how we handle customers. They are people after all, right? So our protocols should address them. How can we ensure a physical distance with our customers to minimize risk is one thing. How can you actually, as an HR professional, support the sales team and guide them on how to deal with customers in this current situation? Everyone is panicked, but to have a great experience, if you can help your team to with the best trainings, how to deal with queries, etc., that can also help from a customer standpoint. Uh, how you can use digital platforms to continue to build customer relationship. I just shared an example of a bank 2 minutes ago. The another one is a lot of clients are also sending communication externally on a regular level to address the needs of the customer. Are they looking for data? Are they looking for how their accounts are? Are they looking for any update on the guidance and how you are thinking about operating on a normal course of time so that they can be sure they will have the services going forward, right? So all of that will also be part of how we draft our business operations and protocols. Um, One of the global retailers, a brick and mortar one, they actually moved over the COVID to a social platform, and they've used their employees to be the influencers for the same. And as for what I'm reading and what we've researched on them is they actually led to a 60% increase in the sales. So how you can leverage your employees and your biggest asset uh, to support the customer, ensure your customers are safe and their needs are taken care of, uh, would be part of how you decide your future work models.
Thanks, Nupur. That is indeed a very relevant point. The emotional connect is what will take most of the organizations through. Next question is for Swarna. Swarna, this question is from Dr. Nandish Hiramat, and he asks, agility of HR leaders will become more relevant and live post-COVID. Is it right? What are your thoughts?
Answer is yes. Obviously, because of the situation, agility is going to be the key thing. Earlier, also, I cannot say that we did not have it, but right now, the crisis it will pose and the kind of challenges that can come up definitely will lead to more of it getting exhibited and also getting accepted. Let's take, for example, even the kind of the counseling or these ideas that came up, right, in terms of keeping in touch, or the policies where the leaves have to be taken care of. There are organizations coming up with leave policies where HR has recommended to business that we should have a special leave category to accommodate people who are affected by COVID. And those are all very quick decisions that have been made. And business they know that it involves cost, but it is also a test of time for organizations' values of actually taking care of their employees. And HR definitely, their agility is definitely going to come to place, going to get exhibited, and I think it will get accepted very quickly. So if
Kashish, you're on mute.
Okay, so thanks for answering that, Swarna. Probably an added segment to this is, which leadership competencies will take precedence in helping organizations in the transition?
hands
Apart
down,
from
empathy. Hands down, empathy.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Thanks,
So maybe I can add, Kashish, on that one. I think,
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
empathy is of course going to be the leader of leader competency. But I think resilience is another important bit which all leaderships, roles need to have at this stage. I think coming back to normal is the new normal, and that's very important. Going digital, and I don't say only CTOs need to be digital, but I think every leadership role need to create a digital mindset and ensure that this remote organizations work digitally seamlessly, and how can we bring into our processes, whether it is our HR processes, HR systems, finance processes, or whichever, right? So digital mindset, I guess, will be the third and the most critical in my mind. And yeah, something to stay, and we have spoken about it, is agile, right? Being agile or agility, right? Taking quickest of the decisions. There is no time for us to keep pricking our brains, getting data and data and data. We need periodic, rather real time data analysis to bring out decisions. And that's where the agility, in my mind, resilience and agility, followed by, of course, digital and empathy remains to be the core leadership competency.
Sure. Thanks, Sheetal. Probably that also partially answers the next question that we have here. It is from Vikram V. Kalyanpur, who's the director of the Catalyst Cube. And his question is, how would you define the next normal for your business leaders? So, any other aspect that you see fitting in for this particular question?
I think if I were to add beyond these four elements of competencies talked about, two clearly are going to be very, very important. The ability of leaders to inspire people in a difficult situation is very, very critical. And being open and candid in the communication. These two will actually be additional competencies or skills to the overall gamut of competencies we are discussing.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Rajeev.
I
I
also
saw a
realized.
question pouring in, and somebody asked that they have a question specifically for you: how to convince people to turn up on day one post lockdown, considering the health scare that's there. And maybe there's an add-on that we can do onto that. The Another question is from Kalpesh Raichora, who is the co-founder for Connect Quotient, and he asks, "What is likely to be the impact on product? What is the likely impact on the productivity and reskilling, and how do you handle fear and anxiety after the lockdown?" So probably this would sum up one particular aspect of post-lockdown scenario.
I can actually attempt some part of it. One is, as HR professionals, we need to remain very sensitive that there's a psychological issue which is linked to this entire scenario of post-lockdown. People would be willing to let go their job just for the sake of not visiting office. So we need to be very creative and sensitive both ways. One important thing is people who have their own commutation facilities, and if people are working on a mission critical assignments, then if they have their own means of communication, then commutation, they can manage that. But don't force people who are dependent on public transportation, because they will be the most impacted population. That's one. Second important thing is, if you have mission critical assignments to be supported, particularly that will happen in ITS industry, and in IT, if you are working in a BFSI or a financial domain based projects where the restriction is to actually operate from home. Fortunately and thankfully, customers so far were very, very cooperative. They allowed work from home. in with a lot of security restrictions, but now they want after a while. So in those cases, companies will have to invest in terms of facilitating the movements of people. Otherwise, it will not. So I think companies will have to have this perspective in mind that there are practical contexts to it, and those need to be supported by the organization, and HR needs to be very sensitive and very empathetic in making these things happen.
Very true, Rajiv. We can probably take in one more question, and that is by Deepak sir. I think, Sheetal, if you would please take this up. And he asks, as a business partner, what are the three things which you would suggest government, which is trying to help the industry sail through the likely financial impact of COVID-19? Did that?
You were breaking, Kashish. Can you repeat the question for me?
The question is from Deepak Sharma. He is asking, as a business partner, what are the three suggestions which you would give to the government to help the industry sail through the likely financial impact of COVID-19?
Okay. So it is asking the government authorities what to do, right? Yeah.
So, as a financial body, what would you suggest to the government if the government would be willing to help the industry sail through the likely financial impact of COVID-19?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is the financial security for the employees, right? As we sail through this, and I was studying some of the, practices happening in UK, and Swarna can add in, where companies are supposed to actually insure, 80% of. I think government will actually, give insurance on 80% of the salaries, and corporates need to give 20% of insurance on the salaries if there's a pay cut happening for stipulated period of time. So I think if I were to ask government in supporting, for the financial part of it, I think first will be ensuring any layoffs or any cutoffs happening that need to be insured. Government need to chip in, make sure that there is a financial stability being given to the employees or to the people who are losing jobs, of course, if there are any unfortunate incidents. I think next will be help or aid in terms of employee safety, and whether it is public transportation, whether it is to do with sanitization of these transportation, where people need to commute. Even if this happens, like I have to go to work tomorrow, like it is the point of getting people back on day one. Then do I have enough government support to make sure that the buses, trains, any public transportations is sanitized properly, having proper availability of masks? They are making sure that masks are a mandatory initiative, but do we have enough masks, the supply, the availability, and is it coming free of cost? Let me also put it this way, because everything is again linked to this. So government can actually do a lot in making sure that there is an aid in employee safety and health, from a health perspective. What after, if someone is COVID positive, tested COVID positive, how can government help the corporates cover the insurance part of this, for if at all, for such people, right? So probably those are the insurance facilities, which benefits which government can look at. Lastly, maybe a lot to government can certainly help in, I will say, easing out of making people come to work. They have started to take steps, whether it is 50%, whether it is whatever that number is. I think at no point in time it should so happen that if 100% are allowed back, they come together and create a bigger problem, because as it happened in Korea, this entire thing relapsed. So relapsed over a period of time. So we don't need a situation like this. So those will be my three core demands to the government authorities as a financial institution or otherwise. But I'm sure there are many more. That's what comes to my top of my mind at this stage. Happy to learn from anyone else.
May I
If
add?
I were to, oh sorry.
May I just add?
Sure.
Yeah, I think considering the nature of our economy, our government has really thought well of employee and worker protection and social security today, as we see in all the notifications. We also see that more and more companies are coming up and doing more out of what the government has mandated. We're going way and beyond to support our employees and workers above the minimum legal requirements. But going forward, all companies are likely to start feeling the pinch of the SGA and the total manufacturing cost that we see, and because the people costs would end up becoming a huge part of our total cost structures, especially if people not all the people are not coming. So we'll have to be really innovative as industry bodies and work with the government to strike a balance between making sure that the employee social security stays, as well as the employers get enough support, and either in the form of subsidies, etc., to take at least part of the burden of of cost. Of course, at this stage, most companies are not looking at it as a burden, because we are all getting together to fight this exceptional and unprecedented circumstance. But I wonder when the day would come when we would collaborate with the government to ensure that there is the right balance between employer health, financial health, and employee social security. And that's what I wanted to add my 2 bits on.
Thanks, Manvi. Rajiv, you also wanted to add in.
No, we can move to the next question. I think we have spoken enough on this.
Okay, so actually, talking about questions, we still have a lot of questions which are coming in. So is there a way that we could probably collate those questions and then answer them later, or do we have the bandwidth to probably take a question or two right now and then wind it up?
Maybe if you took 3 questions, if you can take, we can stretch, and then later on we can post the offline responses.
How is it with Manvi, Swarna, and Sheetal and Nupur?
Works for me. Let's carry on.
Sure. What are the participants feeling? Because closing time, what is their view? If it's
Closing,
it's on dot closing time. So I think a lot of India participants, and we have participants from other geographies as well, as far as me.
we did.
So what do the participants think? We'll go with that.
Okay, so participants, one of the participants has actually requested that there are a lot of questions which are still relevant to the context, and we could probably throw them. We could collate them and then share them with you, and then those can be answered a bit later, if not now. So that was one question that was coming up. So
I think we should take 1 or 2 more questions and maybe then close. Yeah.
Okay, so there is one question that's related to systems and processes. So Rajiv, if you could probably address this. It is from Shubhamoy Saha, and he specifically wants to talk about wants to know about systems and processes which should be designed and built for anticipation and adoption for such risks as COVID-19. So it's a very topic that he's hinted at.
So I think most of us have already gone by that stage already in terms of our readiness. I think technology is the enabler. If we get to experience any such situation, the only way we can deal with the situation is to enable it through the technology and leverage it. It's like technology and the human empathetic perspective. If you combine both these aspects together, you can make it work effectively. I'll make it short in terms of my response so that we can manage time better. Kashish, you're on mute.
Thanks, Rajeev, for answering that. The last one that we would probably take up is probably Swarna, if you could address this concern. So Piyush Tiwari, who's a partner with GTL Mumbai, he's asking for some tips to build emotional resilience in remote teams. Some ideas that we could probably take a dig at.
Okay, what was the name you said, Kashish?
The name is, so the person is Piyush Tiwari. He's his partner with GTL Mobile.
Okay. Piyush, thank you for asking the question. You asked a straightaway tip. Okay, so let me give you two, which we are practicing right now, building resilience within the team. Okay, first of all, we are bringing people closer together. So when we are doing our regular meetings, it's just a 1 minute activity which happens. So the first tip activity that I could give you is in terms of sharing a memorable photo. Okay, any team member of yours, okay, anybody can share a memorable photo and actually tell people why. Mostly what we are hearing is stories of resilience. And then the second thing is using social collaboration tool, if you have one in the organization, very effectively to build a lot of games, activities, write-ups around resilience, which is actually working out very well. In fact, one of our leaders posted a blog with just a photograph of a 99-year-old veteran, World War II veteran from the UK, who actually recovered from COVID at the age of 99. And he just posted that picture and said, here is a great example of resilience. Who is your role model for resilience? And we were amazed by the kind of responses we received in terms of who all, and each person has started talking about how they are feeling about the whole thing. So there are these small tips that we can use, very small events, but can create a huge impact, right from building stories to small 1 minute categories. I hope I answered your question, Piyush.
Thanks, Varna. One last question before we call it a day is from Surinder Sharma, and he is talking about cost optimization and still achieve productivity targets post COVID-19 crisis. So that's a very fundamental yet a very tricky question. But Sheetal, if you could please take this up.
Yeah, all tricky questions you give to me, huh? Okay, but so let me take a stab at it and I will ask all co-panelists to just chime in. Okay, let's take a reality bite, everyone. I think right sizing, optimization, cost rationalization, all these words are going to be the new normal, right? I mean, gone are the luxury days. We will have to start to live in the world of, minimalistic things, right? As I want to call it. Because I think gone are the days when everything will be spared, in a lot more. COVID crisis has made us learn that how we can stay back at home with the minimal things in the stipulated time and availability and everything. So organizations in my mind are no different. They are another way of running your homes, right? So you will have to cost optimize, you will have to rationalize. And as you do that, I think HR again comes into play and makes we are the drivers, right? We are not now sitting at the back seat or a back end process, function. We are the enablers. We are on the forefront who are making sure that if any of this is happening, and as I think one of my co-panelists said that. Layoffs are the last of the options. What you can do is you can cut down on your employee engagements, you can cut down on your trainings, you can cut down on your the extra stuff which you do, if any, right? And keep the new normal as running the organization with the same number of people and the same number of salaries at least, and setting expectations of the employees, I think, from the start that hey, it is going to be a bad year for the organization. Look at the world around. It's a global phenomena. I think expecting, and I see a lot of questions on promotions, increments, what next. I think about it that is that a real ask? Is that the new ask, which is realistic ask? Let me put it this way. And I don't want to put a scare, but I was reading on this one. The most negative word for 2020 is actually positive, right? Which is COVID positive. I think we need to thank enough that this positive is not there and the negative word is not used enough. So don't. So the idea I'm trying to give is HR plays a very important role in managing this cost rationalization, cutting down on maybe all the luxuries of the world and bringing back the basics as we all are speaking from the beginning. And we are saying let's have the minimal lifestyle as at home or otherwise. And it's a demand and supply issue, right? So somewhere we will come back to that V-shape economy and the world will thrive again. But till then, let's keep hope and stay strong. That is what I will talk about. But happy if any one of you want to add to what I said.
Just literally 30 seconds on this one. A lot of times we misconceptualize cost optimization as HR cost or employee cost. I think if we take a step back and look at cost optimization from a bigger angle, you will actually be able to see that in the current scenario, your travel cost is zero. Your marketing cost would be negligible for most of the organization. A lot of other, operating cost for a facility is gone down very low, right? So
Really.
you might actually come back to see that there are so many other cost elements that you can optimize on even after COVID. And it necessarily does not have to be the labor cost, which is what we need to work in collaboration with our other financial leaders and business leaders to see where is it that we need to do a cost optimization or a zero-based budgeting for that matter, not necessarily layoff.
Correct. No, well said, Nupur.
Yeah, and that's why I think a new leadership competency to our list gets added, right? Resourcefulness as leaders.
Correct. Nupur? Kashish? You're on mute.
Thanks, Manvi, and thanks, Sheetal, for the last bit. I think we have catered to almost all questions that are coming in, and we've covered almost the entire set of possible scenarios in the post-COVID-19 work environment. So heartfelt gratitude from core HRIR team and myself to the panelists for sharing their experiences, their insights, their expertise. It was really wonderful session. So thanks Rajeev, Manvi, Sheetal, Nupur, and Swarna. Thanks from all the on behalf of all the attendees, and thanks to all the attendees who have spared time on a Saturday evening, which would not be working for so many of them, and would be working for again almost an equal number for them. So thanks for all your contribution. Thanks for your efforts for making this possible for all the panelists and for all the people behind the scenes. Thanks to the core HRIR team. And do share in your feedback so that we can improvise and make forthcoming sessions useful for everyone. And have a nice Sunday ahead. So all of us would like to close it on a positive note. And if it is one last favor that I may ask all the panelists is, and if we could define the role of HR in one single sentence post-COVID-19, what would that be? And Rajiv, can we start with you?
That's a very interesting question, actually. So I think
Let's like a rapid fire round, and thanks to Swarna, this would, I think, really make it interesting towards the end of the webinar.
So I'll put it simple. We talked about ninja earlier, so it's a human ninja. Be human and be ninja.
What is it for you, Manvi?
I would call it enabling superpower.
Wow. Swarna, how would you define it?
I would say this is the time to show that we are human resource professionals.
Nupur, how about you?
I would say saving lives and livelihood. That's our motto.
Great. Sheetal, what would be your take on it?
No, I think mine is would have been ninja also, but I think this is the time HR needs to show mettle. I think I couldn't agree more that the relevance of HR in these times is of utmost, and we all need to show our mettle to for the rest of the organization, and stay strong.
Absolutely. So what I would like to say is this is a golden opportunity for all the HR professionals to make the golden contribution to the business, and this is the time to shine. Thank you so much, all of you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you to all the panelists, and have a wonderful Sunday, a positive Sunday. And let's look up to the new workforce scenario on April 20th. I guess half of the ITA services will be going live. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.